Maya, 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 Maya,
Alo? Salut! Sunt eu, un haiduc și te rog, iubirea mea, primește fericirea. Alo? Alo? Sunt eu, Picasso, ți-am dat bip și sunt voinic, dar să știi, nu-ți cer nimic. Vrei să pleci, dar numai ei, numai ei, numai ei, chipul tău.
Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and this is the last video of my trip all around Romania and Moldova and the areas surrounding, and it's the one in which I sum up the entire trip. As you can see, I'm not home, but we're in Beauvais in France, and that's because the flight came in at about 12 o'clock today, and we leave at 10 tonight. So we've had the best part of the day in Beauvais. Beauvais is a little town about an hour and a half out of Paris, and it's got the tallest Gothic cathedral in the world, so we had a look at that. And also next to it in the old Episcopal Palace, a really good museum actually. The building itself was very interesting, and there was art galleries on different floors of 20th and 19th century art. So yeah, it's been a nice little stop, and we had a great meal out, just a bit of a chill out today. Woke up very tired, didn't get enough sleep last night, the heat, my god, and we got onto the station, and the train was slightly late, but we got to the airport in plenty of time. On the Airport Express, which never went above 20 mile an hour, but it's a step forward, because there used to be a railway line to the airport in Bucharest. Although, you know, I can't understand, if they're building a whole new railway line, which they did, why they didn't electrify it at the time. Anyway, that's that. So, what do I think of the whole trip? Well, it's been a good trip. Do you know what? I really enjoyed it, and it's quite interesting that, like, in 2012 I did another Ukraine, Moldova, Romania and Pridniestrovia trip, and I wasn't expecting much of it. It's because I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I always wanted to link up my travels, and I travelled to Konotop in Ukraine before, and then I travelled from Bucharest before, and I wanted to link the two, and that's why I did it. And I wasn't expecting much, and it was great. This holiday, I wasn't expecting much. It's not where I would have chosen to go. We came here because Tom wanted to go to Transnistria and Moldova, and I'd always had a vague idea that I wanted to see more of Romania, particularly the western part, but it was certainly nowhere near the top of the list of places I would have chosen. I hadn't given it much planning, I hadn't given it much thought before. Been a really stressful time, like my mum's not well, and you know, there's just been loads going on, and my head was all over the show. And I guess that's like the point, is that the break is brilliant, and sometimes we have to remember that whilst we travel to see new countries, and we travel to like widen our cultural knowledge, and actually a break can be important as well. And I think people like me, we forget that a bit. You know, some people, it's all about the beach, it's all about relaxing. I don't get that, because I get bored very easily, but actually at the same time we all need a break sometimes, and having just that, taking you away from your everyday life and immersing yourself in the alien, where everyday life concerns don't matter because you can't do anything about them, and what matters is, well, you know, have we got enough petrol to get to our hotel, or, you know, where we're going to eat tonight, or all those kind of things. that's what matters, and it's great. Also time with my son, annoying at times, as all 17-year-olds can be, but it was nice to have that kind of final holiday with him. But, ultimately, the people who watch my channel are more interested in the place. I like Romania. I like Romania a lot. I've been coming since '98, but the problem with Romania is I've never been able to conceive of it as a single country. So Bulgaria is very much a unified whole, for the good and bad of that. But like the southern bit of Romania, like Valencia, is very Balkan. It feels like Bulgaria. Bucharest doesn't feel Balkan. I don't know what Bucharest felt like. It was very scruffy when I first went. They've tightened it up a bit, but Bucharest has got different elements to it. Moldova, like Iași and Suceava, where I went before, that had its own feel and almost fairy tale quality. But then when I went to Brasov before and Sighișoara, that had a fairy tale quality and a very Germanic fairy tale quality. And then you've got Maramureș, which is its own thing as well. This time, I visited the parts of Romania that I haven't been before. So I could say, well, now I can see the whole. And what I can say is there is no whole. Romania is united by its language. Culturally, it's very, very diverse. Very diverse. The Banat and parts of Transylvania are very, very Hungarian. That was emphasised for me by reading Miklos Banfi's They Were Counted, which is all about the Hungarian high society before World War One. But the Hungarian influence is there. Like, one of the first things you notice when you go into Cluj is that there are Orthodox churches, and they're quite modern, and there are Catholic churches, and they're the old ones. And, some of the greatest cultural treasures of Transylvania are not Romanian in origin. There's, Brasov is a very Germanic town. The fortified churches and churches, look more like they should be on the Rhine than near the Danube, sort of thing. It's a very, very culturally mixed place. Whereas, when you go into Moldova, which of course Moldova in many people's minds should be part of Romania, it feels far more like Moldavia, which of course it is the same place essentially, and there's no Hungarian influence, no Austro-Hungarian influence at all. It feels very much from the east, and it feels very Russian in places. And Pridniestrovia, it felt like a provincial Russian town, and Romania is that like bridge between the Germanic and the Hungarian and the Russian and the Balkans, and then that kind of all the northern Middle Europe. Like, parts of it feel like Poland, parts of it feel like Bulgaria, and Poland and Bulgaria are very different. It is the meeting place of cultures, and I'd say they merge and swirl together. They don't merge though. They almost sit side by side, and so I struggle to see what is the unifying whole of Moldova, of Romania. I guess the Orthodox Church is a massive influence, and far more than the Russians, the Serbs and the Bulgarians, the Romanians actually are religious, and the Orthodox Church is important to them. But of course that then excludes the Germans and the Hungarians, who are Catholic or Lutheran. But the Orthodox Church, on the final day we were sat outside this church in Bucharest, and they were queuing 50 metres to get in, and the queue never went down. It was constantly moving for hours. And even when we went in and there was no queue, it's packed inside. There is this real passion for their orthodoxy. One thing that I noticed as well is, even though it was Ottoman for a period, there was no Muslim or Turkish influence whatsoever. There probably are things you can see, and we saw a Tatar bathhouse in Moldova, but you would never have ever guessed. It was the most European place that you could think of, it's that Europe before migration, before multiculturalism, and it feels quite different to what I'm used to. Even here in France, there's Algerians and black Africans wandering around. you don't get that in Romania. It is like a throwback to the days when we were ethnically who we were in our own place, and that's very strange these days. In terms of how rich and how well Romania is doing, I mean, Romania's progressed no end since the fall of the Ceausescu regime and the 90s. It was a complete and utter disaster area in the 90s. It looked knackered. It looked a lot worse than Bulgaria, in my opinion. Now Romania seems to be doing quite well for itself, and there's money there, and I mean, Bucharest is first world prices, but it's got its own middle class that's grown up. They are taking their own holidays in Maramuresh, and that they are driving the chains there now, and not English eccentrics like Penny. And certainly the contrast to when we went across to Ukraine was massive. Less so Moldova. Moldova seems to have moved on a lot, and of course Moldova's going to join the EU at some point. They clearly want to. But interestingly, I don't think they're as bothered as others, because so many of them have got Romanian passports anyway. But Moldova is a country that's much better off and much cleaner and better organised than it was when I last went. When I last went, it was a bit Wild Westy. But we went to Old Orhei, and everything had been done up. It was properly signposted. There's a proper tourist management plan in there, and that would have been unthinkable before. Obviously, Krikova, it's the premier tourist attraction in the country, but even so, the fact that they were actually doing it properly suggests that Moldova's time is coming. Pridniestrovia, as I said before, it's smaller than it used to be, but it is a bit of a time capsule. Had a little break in Ukraine. I mean, it was only 18 months since we were last there. Ukraine is a wonderful country. I really like it. The more I see of Ukraine, the more I enjoy it. But it is a country at war. There were no air raids, but there were no visible damage from war. But there was a lot of people in uniform. They were looking for soldiers, when we were leaving the country, checking that we weren't escaping the military. And there's a lot of military posters up. They were fortifying the border. It just feels like a country that is geared up to the military at the moment. And that's something interesting to see, because, very few countries are at war these days. And even, we were in Israel at Christmas, and obviously Israel's at war, but Israel's always been at war. Israel's always been a military country. And actually, if you never switch the news on, you wouldn't know there's any more trouble than there usually is in Israel, because they keep it all very much sealed off in Gaza. Ukraine is not like that. It is affecting the whole country. Visibly a lot more women wandering around than men. Highlights. I mean, the thing is, there were very few, if any, lowlights. I mean, probably a bit too much travelling, and we got a bit tired at the end. But there was no part of that trip where I thought was absolutely terrible. There was bits like when I was in Chisinau and I couldn't hire a car, and that was a bit of a pain. But it was still a good day. Still went to Old Orhei with Vitaly. But the actual highlights, Corvin Castle was amazing. Corvin Castle, really enjoyed that. And I loved both Bailey Herculane and also the spa resort where there was the Russian party and near Timișoara. The little boat trip on the Danube, incredible. I mean, yes, it would have been more exciting to see when the waters were swirling and the iron gates were actually dangerous to navigate. But actually, that is progress, and it was always going to get damned, and it's still incredibly beautiful and interesting to see. I loved the fortified churches that I saw. They were incredible, and particularly Viskry, which I hadn't realised was the other village in William Blacker's book. But for me, the Romania highlight was Breb. It was seeing Penny and the amazing welcome she gave us, and just made our trip. And, you know, someone we met in a bar by chance 18 months ago, she opened her doors to us. Incredibly generous, incredibly kind, but also someone with a passion for making the world a better place. And that's what she's done in that little Romanian village. And, you know, she was talking to us and she was saying, like, you know, she comes from a rich background and some of her friends have got so much property, they've got so much wealth, and, you know, they would see her as a failure, whereas to me she is the very definition of success, because she is someone who has entered the world and made it a little bit of a better place than it was before she was there. And that is an absolute testament. Like, Breb would not be what it was, Maramuresh tourism would not be what it is without her, and that is incredible. She has kept alive customs that are not her own, but she's kept them alive and she's made something special. And, you know, we went up to see those shepherds. It was heard said to the shepherds, who she knew, you know, can I bring some tourists up there? And they were like, why would anyone want to come see us? And she's like, trust me, some people will. And it's that kind of thinking that changes the world. So she was incredible and wonderful, wonderful lady. Other highlights is those just random encounters with strangers, you know, like the Polish guy and the American girl in Pridniestrovia, and you know, the Russian party, like, where you just, that's what traveling's about, the random encounter with a stranger. The receptionist in the Hotel Roma, what a wonderful guy. That is just what makes travel so very special. And of course, Vitaly, it was not a chance encounter, but he really made Moldova for me.
Where is the...
Romania is not a country I'm in love with like Bulgaria. I don't know why. There's something about Bulgaria that just does it for me. I think it is the Slavic culture I really like. But you know what? Romania is well worth going to. It is an incredible place. And I would recommend you go there one day. And while you're doing it, check out Moldova. Check out Pridniestrovia while it's still there. As for Ukraine, you need a whole separate trip for that place. But don't be put off by what you hear on the news. Ukraine is worth going, and it is incredible. And what is happening there, history unfolds before your very eyes. I think that's about it for me. The food, slightly disappointing, apart from in Maramuresh. Nothing we had was bad, but nothing blew us away as incredible. The language, I don't speak Romanian. It's strange. It is a Latin language. Sometimes it feels like garbled Italian. Sometimes it feels a bit Slavic though. And I guess it's a language of a place between worlds. Anyway, that, I suppose, is it from me. It's Uncle Travelling Matt, saying for the final time on this trip, thank you for watching all my videos. I really appreciate the fact that people do actually consume the stuff that I produce. Please keep watching. There will be more trips ahead. Natalia in Chisinau has kind of inspired me to think about a trip to Mauritania and Senegal. So let's see what happens there. But in the meantime, it's me, Uncle Travelling Matt, saying, keep
Te sun să-ți spun ce simt acum. Alo, iubirea mea, sunt eu, fericirea.